party started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hello, and welcome to episode 77 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the naked ninja, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
This is where the fun begins.
This is where the fun begins. You sure you don't want to say it a few more times?
This is where the fun begins.
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 The funny thing is I actually was going to find a way to make some sort of joke about doing Naked Ninja stuff until I sent you that video today. I was like, nope, this is what it's going to have to be.
All right, fair. That would have been amazing if you were prepared for that and just returned it, because nobody else would have been as impressed as I would have been, because they just would assume that we worked on this together.
No, we decidedly don't, actually.
Exactly.
The point is to try and stun the other one with what you're going to say.
You always put me off guard. Luckily, I have prepared my words today carefully. I'm sure I'll mess up now that I've said that. On this week's episode, a check-in on what we're watching, superhero musings, and a classic comedy turns 20. All that and more news and nuggets before diving into our flick of the week, Roma. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking Bull and Barrel Country Bumpkin Pumpkin.
This is a dip into the reserves.
Yes, this is a holdover from the pumpkin beer tasting this year, which is perfect because we're doing a holdover episode from a movie that came out several months ago to begin our priming for the Oscars. Now, we're not going to get full episodes on all the movies that are Oscar nominated, but we are going to give you guys a special little episode later this week priming you for the Oscars, and then next week we'll probably talk about the Oscars as well. Either, what do you think? Should we just do like a reaction video next week?
I think that
episode, whatever.
We could probably we'll discuss how we want to put it in there, if it's going to be part of the episode or not, or its own little thing. But basically, I think as part of our pre-Oscars episode, we definitely need to give our predictions, and folks can then see how wrong we are.
Yes. Which, considering we have no sources, is probably just us taking wild guesses. Anyway, back to the beer. This is brewed and canned by Bull and Barrel Brew Pub in Brewster, New York, which is not terribly far from me. It's a hint of pumpkin with a ton of spice. Sorry, wow. This was really poorly edited. A hint of pumpkin with a ton of spice notes, including nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, ginger, and clove. They could have planned that out better, right?
My brain inserted its own punctuation, including a colon. I read it as a hint of pumpkin with a ton of spice. Notes including nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice.
That's how I read it too, because why would you arrange this way? It's like, why would you cut it off mid-phrase?
It's not great. You guys can't see this can, but it does look like I made it in Greetings Workshop.
I don't know. I actually like it, though.
I like the art above the wording, but the layout looks like something that I would have done on a greeting card.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, for that part of it, yeah. This is an amber ale brewed with pumpkin and spices.
I was wondering where you found that, and then I realized I had to spin the can all the way around and turn it sideways. And this is what I'm talking about.
I do a lot of prep for this. You can tell sometimes when I'm not butchering the reading of it. But I do try and come prepared so I don't get surprised by some bit of wording on the can. I want to know what I'm going to be reading beforehand.
Fair enough.
Sometimes I got to look up pronunciations of stuff. Like last week when I was looking up the pronunciations of half the actors singing in June.
Fair enough.
Which, by the way, another 2 or 3 really famous people joined Dune this week too.
Really?
I figured I didn't bother to look it up for for a follow-up, but yeah, I think Josh Brolin and someone else super famous also joined Dune.
All right, that's fun. Cheers. Let's give this sucker a taste.
All right, cheers.
Ooh. Okay. Now, I had concerns. Here's why. There were a handful of the beers that we had leftovers of that I didn't care for. And now,
how would you remember?
Well, I remember specifically what it tasted like that I didn't like.
Okay.
And now I'm certain it's not this one. Yeah, this one's pretty good.
The thing is, I'm not sure if I had this one since I missed the first few. I think that was the reason I specifically grabbed it from your fridge, having leftovers, because I didn't take all of them.
Okay.
But I think I hadn't had this one, and that's why I grabbed it.
Yeah, you were on that Biolsey time. No, I'm pretty sure you were just busy earlier on.
Yeah, no, we were doing stuff. that was the day that we lifted like the 400-pound rock out of the ground before.
The rock.
I came. It's huge. It's now a permanent fixture in the backyard because we built the fence in front of it, between it and the woods. So I'd have to do twice the work to get it out because I'd have to go around the fence.
I think
it's not going over. I'll tell you that.
You gotta take Dominic out there one day, and stand there and look at the rock and just whisper in his ear, "Everything the light touches." Is that
No, the problem is, this thing is fucking gigantic.
Yeah.
And it was deep in the ground. There's nothing to grab onto. We couldn't even get straps under it properly. And we got it like 95% of the way out of the hole. And it just needed someone to do the final push because me and my dad were holding most of the weight up. My mom was kind of using a pry bar to help straighten it out. And Dominic was supposed to, he was using a shovel to help pry it up as well. And it was like on the precipice. It just needed to roll a little bit. And me and my dad were pulling back with the strap towards us. And my mom and my brother were on the other side, one prying and the other one, he was like, he couldn't decide whether to like use the shovel or not use the shovel. And I could feel it was, first of all, it was super muddy. And there was a ton of water and slop like in like the area that the rock was actually in.
Water
at that point.
And
slop. I couldn't use, I did that on purpose for dramatic. Yes, exactly. I got to the point where
the myth, the slop. Just taking notes for a future episode.
Of course, yes. So I'm trying to. I was like, I couldn't communicate at that point because there's a ton of strain going on.
Sure.
And it's one of the very few times where I've actually gone to my full extent, and I like full on hulked it because I couldn't properly communicate to him. Just push the fucking rock.
Okay, so
instead I just grabbed it with one hand and tossed it, and everyone just stared at me.
I was
like completely out of breath, and I was like, "It was done. Just push the rock."
The way you said that made it sound like I couldn't quite communicate to him, and you had just referenced the Hulk. It sounded like you meant internally you couldn't tell the Hulk to just push it.
No.
Amazing.
Anyway, back to this beer. This is pretty delicious.
I like this one a lot.
This is definitely one that I would drink again outside of the setting of trying to race to the finish and stay sober enough, or not like
to taste it,
know what it is that we're drinking.
Right.
This is nice. It's spiced. I like these amber ale type. I mean, I really like the one that I did, the porter, and that's that sort of style. But you don't see those quite as often, I feel like. I like this like amber where it's got enough of that caramel to balance out the spice and the pumpkin.
Yeah. No, it's really nice. It gets a thumbs up for me. It's very clear. I feel like compared to a lot of the other pumpkin beers.
Yes, it's obviously like they did a lot of filtering of this. It's been clarified nicely. Very well carbonated, but doesn't feel burdensome. Sometimes like it feels like a chore to drink a beer because it's so carbonated.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm sorry. There's a lingering aftertaste. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I think it's the ginger that's listed in those spices there.
Yes, I believe you're correct. That is the one. Yeah,
it's because if you focus on it, then it tastes like ginger ale, which is kind of great.
That one, that's a spice that I don't typically associate with this sort of beer.
Sure, yeah, me neither.
It's usually like cinnamon and stuff like that, but
I thought you were going to say cinnamon spice and everything nice. I really thought you were going to go there. You let me down. It's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, it did not even register for me.
All right, Bull and Barrel, Country, Bumpkin, Pumpkin.
I'm a fan of the name.
Definitely. Yeah, and it takes you got to really take your time with it. Make sure you say it right, and you have to turn the can significantly to read it all.
Oh, disagree. I actually like cruising through it, like Country, Bumpkin, Pumpkin.
Yeah, that's never going to happen for me. I'll never say it right like that. Awesome. Good call for the tonight. I don't because seriously, this stuff is kind of off the cuff. It's probably, obviously I'm sure it sounds that way too. But we picked the beer last minute just to ask you what we're having and to reach in the fridge here. I really I dig it. I wasn't expecting pumpkin tonight, but I approve. I approve.
Well, I realized that we still had a couple of those left over, and I didn't want to get to a point where we did it for like 3 episodes in a row. So I wanted to get nip it in the bud and start that up now, so we can intersperse other sorts of beer in between.
Sure. At this point, though, for me,
it was gonna drive you nuts if we did 3 straight February-March episodes of pumpkin beer.
True. For me, though, there's it's a game of Russian roulette that's getting closer and closer to the end, because I know that there's one of the ones that we have in there is the one that I really don't like, and if we finish all of them, if we get to the last one and we haven't had it, then it's that one, and we're not going to do it. But if we do have it, I'm probably not going to finish that one and open the other beer instead. Just so you know. We'll get there. We'll find it out. Shall we dive into our news and nuggets?
Sure.
How many things you got this week?
I have 4 things. One of them was going to be reading.
I have 4
but we're going to do a dramatically abbreviated version of reading, and instead I'm just going to tease what it is and give you guys the information so you can do a reading yourself, because it would be by far the longest thing I've read on here. And this is already going to be, I think, a fairly long episode. So I've decided that I would not subject everyone to that, no matter how much it's worth reading, because it is.
All right. Let's go back and forth. And
the other thing, just to tease what we're doing, I do have the return of Kill a Narrative.
Oh, excellent. I'm excited for that. Well, the first thing on my list was actually a reoccurring segment of what we're watching / listening to, because I've got 2 things that I need to discuss with you. Okay. The first is The Punisher.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I just started watching the other night. Excellent. And I vehemently disagree with you. I've watched about the first half of the season. I've really enjoyed it.
Really? Oh, that's great. I'm glad that's the case for you. It was suffering from that whole Walking Dead thing for me for pretty much the entirety of it.
What do you mean?
There's just this thing going on that seems like filler. And it's very odd to me, because the series, and we won't, obviously no spoilers or anything here, the series feels like an epilogue to the first season, and it only needed to be maybe half the number of episodes that there are actually in the season.
I haven't hit a point yet where I felt like any of it was dragging. The only criticism I will say that I think, it's not like it's perfect, but I have been enjoying it. I think I liked the first season better, mostly because the dynamic between Frank and, was it Ben? Was that his name?
Micro?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember his actual
I want to say it was Ben, but I'm not 100% sure. I thought the dynamic between the two of them was really good.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Run of the show, and this doesn't have that exactly. No. But the one thing that I will say is, I think, a valid criticism, but that's just kind of rankled me a bit, just not enough to make me not like it. Mm-hmm. Is the two the show is largely running 2 parallel storylines, mm-hmm. and I don't like how it is that they decided to intertwine them, because there is no way to do it.
Right.
I think it would have been much better if the Madani storyline was nearly entirely separate from the Castle storyline, and his events just brought him back to New York organically, because ultimately that would have been doable, considering that's where Rachel's story, or not just Amy's story takes them right to New York anyway. And if he overheard the thing about Billy while there, and then organically met up with Madani, and then that's how they ended up working together, that would have been, I think, a much better solution, because the way they did it was clunky, because you end up with them kind of spinning their wheels alongside of each other, seemingly on the same page that they're both interested in doing this thing, but they're not actually, at least not yet.
Yeah, it was very weird. That I get that, and I think that might actually have a lot to do with what I disliked about it.
Because it is an irritant to me, but relatively minor, because the thing is, the 2 storylines, both of them I find interesting. So it's kind of just window dressing for me, the irritation.
Yeah, the storyline with the girl, the young girl, is
That's
not.
definitely been the much stronger one.
It's interesting though. It doesn't really go places. And
Well, I mean, I don't know. Thus far it is. So.
You'll get the whole story. You'll understand everything that's going on by the end. The whole thing fell a little flat to me, where the actual culmination of the Billy storyline I enjoyed, and I don't know. I was kind of bummed out. The problem was the first season was so good.
Well, and it was very well
it.
designed and executed, the first season.
Yeah.
And this definitely isn't in the same way as I've kind of been describing.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
But the thing is, I'm interested in what's going on. I just don't think the execution has been as clean and tight as it was in the first season.
Mm-hmm.
So while I do think it's probably a half step below the first season, I'm still enjoying it because I'm still intrigued by some of the stuff that's going on. Even if I'm not intrigued by all of it, I do think some of the Billy storyline, that is where the filler has been.
Yeah.
In the first half of the season?
Yep. Definitely.
Just some of it, not all of it.
No, yeah, I agree. It's just there was never a point where I was completely bored or was maybe thinking about not finishing it or, abandoning the show. I was just, every time an episode ended, I felt like I was just like, eh. The first two I thought were really good, and the first
episode was really strong.
Yeah, the first two, last two, phenomenal. In between, there's a lot of low points for me.
I haven't hit a point yet, but I'm sure it's coming because it usually is somewhere around episode 9 of these 13 episode season. I'm on episode 6, or I might have been halfway through episode 7. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear when you hit the end.
I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for that sag, and I just haven't. Maybe it hits differently for everyone. I just feel like I haven't hit it yet.
No, but it'll be good to talk about this after you've seen the whole thing. I'll be interested to hear your take once it's finished. But yeah, that's what I actually just finished it this weekend.
Okay, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm about halfway through, but that's the thing I'm watching. I'm done with The Sopranos. I think next week's episode is when I'll do my review because I want to kind of do a pretty formal review of it, and I didn't have time to collect those notes for the schedule that we wanted to do this week.
Okay.
And I don't want to do it. I think you and I kind of agreed, right, that for our next episode, the primer episode, we're not really going to do a news and notes unless there's a big thing to discuss.
Probably not.
Just to keep it a little bit more brief. So I think I'll try and lay it out for next week's episode.
Sounds good. That works for me. And, watching right now, you're watching Punisher, and you said something else, or?
No. I do want to talk about stuff that we'll be watching, but we'll do that after we're done with what we're watching, because you said
sounds good.
Listen to. So is there a podcast in
there
too?
Yes, there is. And you, as you know, and many of you know, I'm a huge fan of Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert. He had a powerhouse of a guest on this past week.
Who's that?
Jason Mantzoukas. And man, I loved him before. I just adore him now.
Have the two of them been in something together? Or?
I think that he said Baby Mama, but I don't remember the movie well enough to.
That's the Amy Poehler, Tina Fey one?
Yes. I remember Dax Shepard's character in that movie, but I don't remember him being in it. I didn't know how much he's written. It's definitely worth going and taking a listen to that. It's a lot of fun. I just love his podcast.
I've been listening to a lot more lately. It's funny because we've been doing this show for, now that we're in February, we've been doing it for 2 whole years.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we're coming up on the anniversary, or at least maybe the anniversary of when it was released. I don't remember. We probably should mark that in some way.
It's somewhere. I'll just scroll back in SoundCloud.
Yeah, no, I just mean we probably should mark the fact that it's been 2 years. Despite the fact that we don't have 104 episodes. It's been my joke for quite some time, and it's probably not really true anymore. Like, when people find out that I do a podcast, they're like, oh, well, what podcast do you like to listen to? I'm like, well, I don't actually listen to any. I actually listen to a few now. But that's one that I've been thinking about, probably not listening to every episode, especially since it's a huge backlog, it sounds like. But I could see myself, when I'm looking for something to listen to, trying to comb through and
Yeah.
just find ones that I'm interested in.
I think that's fair. I haven't listened to all of them, but that's just because of the way that I have weekly shows that I listen to, and sometimes they back up on me, and I don't have enough time in the week. So like I'm going through a backlog. I listen to a lot
It's
of the
funny
gaming
that's
podcasts.
now started to happen to me occasionally because I listen to it during specific things. Like a lot of times I'll put one on while I'm playing a game at night before I go to bed.
Okay, yeah.
But it depends on what I'm playing, because like if I'm playing something where it's very story intensive and I want to be focusing, I won't listen then.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing something online, then I'll put it on the background because I don't care what's actually going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anytime I go in the car,
I listen in the car a lot. By the way, you're driving me insane with your do not reply thing.
I don't do it.
It's literally killing me.
I don't actually do it. The phone just does it.
I know, but
I'm sure I could turn it off, but it does help because I'm really bad with text messages sometimes.
Yes, you are.
So just at least knowing that there's a good chance I'm not going to see it for a long time. Could be helpful.
Yes. Well, no, the worst one time you got me, like, you texted me.
Yeah, and then I got in the car.
I got in the car immediately. I responded promptly to you and got kicked back 2 messages immediately. And it's 2 messages every time. Telling me that you're not getting the text. And I'm like, motherfucker.
That, I don't know why it does 2.
Because it couldn't get it all out of its system in 1. Because they're 2 separate messages. It's not a copy.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. It's weird.
Sorry.
No, that's totally fair. That's what we're here for. Going off the rails.
Now I'm afraid every time I text you that I'm going to get that thing kicking back at me. Like,
I think I'm going to start copying the message and sending it to you even when I'm not in the car.
Even when I'm not texting you?
Yeah, yes. Just in the middle of the night. Not like this.
Motherfucker! Why is he driving at 3:30 in the morning?
That'd be so rude. Yeah, but I definitely there's a huge back catalog there, and what's great about it is, you know, person's name is right in the episode, so you just scroll through, find somebody that you like, and you'll just have a blast. And they're long episodes, so like you don't have to, you can do it in chunks. You don't have to listen to it all through at once. It's just a good time. It's such a fun show. It makes me feel good. It's my therapy. Okay. Yeah, but that's it. I just wanted to bring him up because man, he cracks me up, and to find out that all of his stuff is basically improv is amazing, and that is what people hire him for is even better.
Yeah.
And there's do you watch The Good Place?
No.
So he plays a character on The Good Place. He is the boyfriend.
Is he on the show now?
No, he's occasionally on the show. He's been on a handful of episodes.
Wait, sorry, this is Jason Mantzoukas or Dak
Yeah,
Shepard?
Jason Mantzoukas.
Okay.
He's been on the show.
Well, because Kristen Bell's on it, that's why.
Right. But he's on the show and as a character named Derek, and he is the the AI helper of The Good Place, creates a boyfriend but has to make it kind of dumb, and that's him. So every time that he comes in the room, or every time somebody addresses him, he just says his name.
I'm Jono.
He just basically, but somebody will ask him a question and he'll just go, Derek. Again, it cracks me up every time. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen the scene. So funny. I love it.
I mean, anytime I think of him, I'll always think the line that'll always come to my mind immediately is, "Hey, tall guy."
100%. That's just him. He was fantastic on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If you ever get to see him on that, he's great. He'll
always be Rafi to me.
But the thing is, he's always that guy.
Well, that's true too.
It's amazing. There's like levels of over the top, and Rafi is through the roof.
Yes.
It's like they hire him to do his thing, and then they just put like a speed limiter on him. And for the league, they were just like, let's turn that off. See what happens. But he's absolutely hysterical.
Just outdo the most ridiculous thing you've ever done this scene. But then the next scene, it's outdo what you did the last time.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, what do you got?
Well, let's go directly into more TV talk.
Okay.
I was perusing some things coming up that I'm looking forward to, because right now I don't really have much that's like running live that I have to watch. The only thing that I'm watching, I think, that's running is the Orville, which is fine. It's mostly filler for me.
You officially gave up on The Walking Dead?
Semi-officially. I haven't watched any of the new 2 episodes. I'll get to it eventually, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's also basically filler for me. But I did notice that there are 3 things coming back nearly at the same time, and they're all going to make me very happy, but also very sad. Okay. Because in a quick succession of a few weeks, I think starting with March 31st, the final season of Veep will be starting that night.
Oh, that show's ending? I didn't know that. Okay.
And then a couple weeks after that, the final season of Game of Thrones will kick off. And immediately after that, the final season of Archer will be kicking off.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It's a big 3 of shows for me, and they're all going to be going away forever, and that makes me sad.
Oh, I'm sorry, Al.
Even though I'm very much looking forward to them because I love them so much, but it's bittersweet, my anticipation in this case. Which I guess my anticipation for episode 9 will be bittersweet as well, because it'll be the last.
It's never the end though, so like
no, but it'll be the end of the saga for now.
For now is the key there though.
But the thing is, there's nothing on the slate for the saga. I don't think they'll let it wait another 15 or so years anymore, but it'll be at least 5.
Yeah. Great. Give it even more time. Which
is fine, but again, still bittersweet.
Make it long enough that I really feel it when it comes back. Give me that good Force Awakens feeling.
Yeah. But 15 years is too long.
You know what's funny? I do remember like preparing myself for the night that we were going to go see Force Awakens, that I'm not going to feel this way again.
Yeah. Well, I guess we won't have to feel that way again, right?
No, but it was great though. It was such a good feeling.
And I guess this is kind of a natural progression to get into that too. Even the fact I didn't have this as a note, but we should discuss it. Star Wars Episode 9 wrapped the other day.
Woo!
That picture was cool. The picture I sent you, making fun of that picture, was even better.
Yes.
And they almost snuck it in right behind, but apparently The Mandalorian also wrapped. Which seems really sudden, mostly because I feel like we didn't get much like news or like pictures from set or anything while it was shooting. It feels like it kind of went on and I didn't realize it was going on.
Yeah.
But I guess it also makes sense if it's supposed to be out at the end of this year. It would make sense.
It's got to be done, right?
That has been wrapped, or at least would have been wrapped soon.
Right. No, that is interesting that we haven't. Yeah, not a leak, not a nugget.
I remember seeing a couple of pictures from set before they even announced Pedro Pascal for the lead role. Mm-hmm. Like that they were starting shooting some of like more like the background stuff, because it was none of the main characters or in any of the pictures. It was like guy in stormtrooper outfit or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then we got a slew of casting all at once, and then nothing. And then now, principal photography is wrapped.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm definitely excited for that.
Oh, me too.
It's gonna be real good.
Even more so once I know, like, you know, who anyone's playing.
Do we have any details on how it's going to be released?
It's going to be released on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but weekly?
Oh, is it going to drop all at once, or is it going to be weekly?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to be dropped concurrently, but I don't know for sure. I don't know if they've said it for sure.
Yeah, they should do it weekly.
I'd be okay with either one.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that anticipation of the next week and like when the show ends. Like when you binge watch The Punisher, right? It actually would have probably been better for me to watch it once a week, because it'll give you more time with the episode to think about it and absorb it and draw conclusions and guesses about what's going to happen next, rather than just rolling right into it.
There is something to that. I might even start pacing myself more with some of those shows.
Yeah.
Not to do it every week per se, but maybe like one episode a day or something like that, as opposed to like I was watching it on like Friday and Saturday night, and I watched like 3 episodes a night. You know what I mean? I do enjoy the binging experience, but I enjoy it more for like what I've been doing with like The Sopranos, where like the show's over, and I'm binging through the entirety of the catalog. I do find myself regretting sometimes single season drops that I watch in the course of a week.
Right. Because then it's going to be so long before you get...
Yeah, because then it's so long until I get, maybe I wouldn't pace it out to it taking 10 weeks to watch, right? Maybe I would watch it in 3 or 4 weeks. But
Yeah, I think I want to do that. I saw some, I forget who it was. Somebody tweeted their watching schedule, and they had lined up all the shows they want to watch, and they scheduled them out for the week of like, these nights I will watch this, this, and this. And I thought that was a great idea. Like, actually just, give yourself your own TV guide of wonderful content.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
That's smart.
I do enjoy not having cable. Very much.
I mean, listen, no one likes commercials, but I don't mind. I can live with it, or at least, I mean, I guess I kind of get the best of both worlds, because I do watch some stuff streaming wise or DVR and fast forward to the commercials, and I don't mind the pause. For me, the issue is more how long commercial breaks can be, like, or how frequent they can be. I just feel like they could do a better job of mixing that.
I'm with you.
Like, it's not that offensive to me, and if it lowers the burden of like cost, it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind. Like, actually, what I've found with some streaming stuff that they do, where it's like, okay, give me 90 seconds of ads before the thing starts, and then give me one pause about halfway through for another 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah. I
can do that. That really doesn't bother me. Especially mostly because if it gives you a countdown clock at the beginning, 90 seconds, I mute it, I just walk away and go do something else and then come back and watch it. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. That 100% doesn't bother me if the content is free.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you make me pay for it and you give me that, you can go to hell.
Well, I just think if you're gonna make me pay for it, then we have to fix the balance of power with the commercial.
No,
if you're gonna give me,
if I'm paying for
The Walking Dead, which is 40 minutes spread across 90 minutes, that's offensive to me.
It is. And you know what's really crazy is we talked about my antenna antics. I now have this setup so that I get my live TV through my Plex server. My
antennics.
I made my antennics. You can set up a DVR like really easily. I have a giant hard drive attached to the server, and it just it can record shows all over the air. There's a friggin' checkbox that says strip commercials. And I was like, okay.
The only thing I'd be worried about that is if it didn't clip properly and you missed some bit going into or coming out of a commercial.
They let you do it per thing you want to record. So you can, if you're worried about that, you could just not do it for something that you're very serious about.
Okay, so like if you want to strip commercials from Walking Dead but didn't want to strip it from something else. Okay. So.
Yeah, like if you lost 30 minutes of The Walking Dead, you're probably still getting the whole story. I just caught up today, so it's definitely fresh in my mind. Oh God. Was that it for what you're watching and what we're watching? And actually, no, that was the Star Wars news. Was there anything more to tack onto that?
That's all for that stuff. Okay. Although, as far as viewing habits, we're gonna have a little talk about that in the movie portion of this episode.
I wrote down your quote. We will get to that. It's the most amazing thing.
I'll have you read my quote, but I think you're gonna enjoy me talking about watching that movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. All right,
let's go back to one of your notes.
I realized the next one. They're very short. It was the superhero antics. So, quick thing was came across an article. We've touched on it before because it's been rumored before of Army Hammer to replace.
Oh, I just saw that right before we sat down.
And if we can, could you imagine, if this had actually happened before, and he was in Batman vs Superman, he would have hammered it would have happened. The hashtag would have been real. We would have won. we're just gonna have to keep that alive. If you've been following along with us, you will note that with every episode that we post, we do include the hashtag Hammer Cavill. Sometimes I forget the hashtag FLI6, but I never forget Hammer Cavill.
It may take a long time, but we're gonna dominate social media with that eventually.
Eventually, and that's all I want, and that's to be followed up quick by this other one, another quick one. Saw this fan art by @BossLogic on Twitter, which it just became everything that I wanted. I didn't know I wanted it until I saw it, and now if I don't get it, I'm gonna be very disappointed. He mopped up Mahershala Ali as Blade.
Oh, I did. I didn't see it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
Give me that. Give me that now. Put him in everything that I'm going to see in the future. I love that man.
The only problem is, I mean, he just doesn't have the martial arts chops.
It's okay. They'll figure it out.
Well, I'm just saying Wesley Snipes did all his own stunts.
That's fine.
Or at least in the first two movies.
Marvel's got that crazy editing technique. They can figure this shit out. It'll be fine.
No, but him projecting that physicality and being able to back it up on screen was crucial to the character.
Listen.
Don't not to denigrate Mahershala Ali. Obviously, I'm a big fan. We've discussed it a few times, especially in recent weeks.
He'll be great.
I'm a fan of more things with him in it.
He'll be great. I'm just waiting for this to happen now. It's going to happen now. That's all. It just has to. It has to. Al, don't take this away from me.
Well, unfortunately, in a cruel twist of fate, we will still not get Armie Hammer as Batman. But what could have been, you know?
Yeah, what could have been. Is there any news on what's actually happening there, or no?
There has been. Well, the only concrete news that seems to have been broken is they want to cast a relatively young Batman.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
younger than they have, obviously, for the last ever. And someone I've heard rumored, and I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but it's not just by fans, it's by people actually in the trade. Richard Madden, which was a surprise to me. He was Robb Stark on Game of Thrones. Quite a strong accent to have to get over. Although I've never heard him do an American accent. I don't know. He may have one. I don't know.
Just has to grunt mostly.
It would be weird to have Irish Batman.
Why not? Let's just have him. Let's have him.
I mean, Christian Bale does a pretty good American accent. I mean, it's kind of a clean, clipped, non-denominational American accent, but still, very rarely did he let his British accent poke through. To the point that until I saw The Prestige, I didn't know that he was British, and was very confused because I just thought he was an American actor who did a really good British accent, which is very rare. There's a lot of British actors who do good American accents. There's very, very few American actors who do decent British accents.
Right.
So imagine my confusion.
Yeah, I can see why you're so confused. Oh my god. Whatever. I'll take him. He can be Batman. That's fine. I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me so much who plays him. I just like Batman.
As long as it's a better choice than Ben Affleck, I'm good.
Stop with that. You know what's funny? I've been defending
Armie Hammer.
I've been defending Ben Affleck as Batman because I really enjoyed him as Batman. But then when Zack Snyder made a comment that he was the best Batman, I was like, oh, well, okay, hang on. I'm not gonna... No. You guys, you had the best Batman costume by far, in my opinion. That is the Batman costume that I love.
Okay.
But it wasn't the best.
Well, you love Keaton, obviously.
I love Keaton.
Much like Schmidt. But,
oh, for that reference, you'll need to watch The New Girl. Is it The New Girl?
No, it's just New Girl.
It's just New Girl. I added the. Does that make me 50? 60? That's a thing that older people do.
Oh, 100%.
They watch the Netflix.
That knock at the door you just heard is them dropping off your AAR.
Oh, excellent. You know what's funny? I actually get those in the mail. I've mentioned this before. I've been pre-approved for a mortgage since I was like 13 because they just think I'm my dad. We don't have the same name. It's a close name. It's not the same name.
Anthony Antonio.
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, that seems like a pretty... That's enough of a difference.
tomato.
That's just like sending it to any other Anthony. I feel like. Whatever. Excellent. Anyway, those are my 2 superhero nuggets.
Okay. I still have 3 things. So let's do the abbreviated form of reading.
Okay.
So I have an article here that I stumbled upon by going down a rabbit hole, something else I was reading. And let me just say it was a delightful rabbit hole. Do you know who Drew McGarry is?
I don't think so. The name sounds familiar, but I think it's because my brain is making it say Drew Carey.
No. So he is a writer for Deadspin and GQ. And I think he's also authored a couple of novels. So I was reading an article that he wrote the other day, and in it he linked an article that he wrote in April of 2013 called Kidnapped.
Okay.
In parentheses following that, it said, just kidding.
Good.
So I'm going to read you the beginning, first couple paragraphs of this article, and then I'm going to direct you to it. Well, if you just look that up, you'll find it. It was on GQ. And I hope that everyone who's listening to this will take the time to read it, because it is pretty excellent writing. So here we go. Why on earth would someone pay hundreds of dollars to fly halfway across the country for the pleasure of being abducted by thugs, handcuffed in a basement for hours, and forced to pee into a Gatorade bottle? GQ made Drew McGarry go find out. There was a moment when it felt real. I wish I could tell you the exact time, but I was stuck in a frigid basement, and they had taken my watch, along with everything else I was carrying, when they grabbed me. I think it was around 3 a.m., but I'm only guessing. It felt like someone had torn open the minutes between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and stuffed 10 more hours inside. I was not on regular time. I was on being kidnapped time, which lasts far longer. I was duct taped to a chair in 3 separate places, at my ankles, my thighs, and my chest. There were 2 henchmen flanking me. Romeo, on my right, was a black guy in a ski mask and no shirt. His torso... His torso was larded with tattoos and tiny pockets of baby fat, as if he had never picked up anything heavier than 5 pounds. To my left was a white dude named Cody, who sounded like every grown man named Cody. In front of me was a table piled with assorted instruments of torture: a blowtorch, a drill, a stun gun, plus 2 glaring floodlights. Romeo had removed my blindfold temporarily so that I might have the privilege of staring directly into those floodlights. Behind the floodlights was nothing but darkness and a voice. "So, Drew," I heard a man say, "I think it's time we stopped bothering to make you comfortable. Would you like fries with your abduction?" Extreme Kidnapping's Adam Thicke emailed me a series of questions to tailor my experience, and I wrote back with answers filled in. Here's an excerpt of that exchange. "Could you be slapped if it came to that?" "Oh, sure. Count me in on slapping." "Verbal abuse?" "You bet." "Waterboarding, stress positions, stun gun, fire." "I've never been waterboarded, but it sounds horrible. I guess we could maybe explore it."
Oh my god.
"I don't know about a stun gun. Probably not." "Beaten with a trout?" "Battered with a summer sausage." "I'm not kidding." "Oh, sure. Can I eat the summer sausage when you're done?" "Piranha? Holy shit. I guess so. Just don't have them actually bite me." "Duct taped to a wall off the ground?" "Probably not." "Suspended from the ceiling? Are you flexible enough that you can be stuffed into a closet or a confined space for a while?" "Please don't stuff me into small spaces." Any
This is excellent.
"Allergies?" "No allergies that I know of. I ain't telling you my phobias because I am a pussy." Romeo slapped me hard across the face, much harder than I had been slapped all night. Then he shocked me with a stun gun. Then Cody doused me with cold water, which is the worst part by far. When you get hit with a stun gun, it lasts about a second. When someone throws cold water on you, it makes you miserable for hours. I hadn't thought about cold water before this. I had thought about guns and billy clubs and knives. It never occurred to me how desperately I would want to stay dry. Now I would have gladly taken another jolt from the stun gun in exchange for a fresh t-shirt.
Oh my god.
"I know this was originally meant to be a fake kidnapping," the voice said. "That's right. And I know that you guys did your homework on me and that you know I went to prison for a while." "I do know that. But there are other things about me that you don't know, Drew. And the reason you don't know them is because you never asked." Oh shit. That was the moment it felt real. That was the moment I was paying for.
That's...
So this goes on to write in detail his whole... He put it into little chapters the planning stage, traveling out there, everything, every detail of being kidnapped and everything, from start to finish. I'm going to leave the rest of you to read that for yourselves.
I added it to my reading list while you were going. This sounds absurd.
It was incredible. I read through the whole thing. He's a really good writer.
Okay. What's his name again?
Drew Magary, Magary. He's a funny guy. I have stumbled across him because he mostly does sports writing stuff for Deadspin, but he does other stuff too. He's actually branches out in a lot of different stuff. Like, he's not like a sports beat writer. He's kind of writes more like a fan plus, like the fan experience. I read his weekly. He does like a mailbag column where people email him ridiculous questions and he answers them in as an entertaining way as possible. It's a highlight of my week because it's often entertaining. He's not for everyone. He is an ass. He freely admits that he's an ass. But it's fine. It's funny. You don't have to agree with everything he says, especially politically. And he has a lot of political thoughts, and that's fine and well. And if I get bored with them, I just kind of skip them. The point is, there's way more good than bad.
Okay.
I am entertained by his writing quite often.
Yeah, I will be reading that probably later tonight. That sounds hysterical.
It's a fairly long article. It's very entertaining.
Awesome. Nice find.
Yes.
Nice find. I have one last thing, and I think you have two more.
Yes.
All right.
One of them is shorter than the other.
All right, I'll give you my last one. I mentioned that there's a comedy that is celebrating its 20th anniversary.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Office Space.
Oh, I read an oral history of the making of that movie a couple of weeks ago.
Really? I
don't remember if I sent it to you.
I don't think so, because I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Either that or I was driving.
No, the problem is, after a certain point, sometimes I forget who's seen what.
Sure.
Certain people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't remember if that was one that you enjoyed or if you were just kind of like an on the movie or whatever.
Oh, no, I love Office Space. There are things about Office Space that remind me of previous jobs so perfectly that it's just... The movie's timeless, and it's so hysterical. And,
well, sometimes I wonder if you kind of lose that effect since you've been working from home for several years.
No, I remember it. That's all. It is why I've been working from home for so many years.
Yeah, that's
true. When I bought Office Space, I bought this collector's. I actually think I might have. No, it wasn't 10 years. 5 years. I don't know. When I bought Office Space, I bought some collector's edition of it, and it has a mug in there with Lumbergh's face on it that says yeah. It came with a red stapler.
Nice.
And it came with a jump to conclusions mat.
Fantastic.
Which is just wonderful that this exists. That movie cracks me up, and there's one particular thing. I think, well, first off, I do think that we'll take the time, and I think we should do an episode on it at some point. I do think it's worth the
I'd be down. I love that movie.
There's just one thing that always, for some reason, the thing that stands out to me the most is it's a thing that pops into my head every once in a while and just makes me chuckle for no reason at all, is the dream sequence where his friends are sentenced to a federal pound me in the ass prison.
Yes, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
And you, sir, are a very bad man.
Yeah.
That's
sorry,
so
I believe it went like this. Peter Gibbons, right?
Yeah.
You've lived a trite and meaningless life, and you're a very bad person. Because that was what Samir said to him. You're a very bad person. Yep. That was what he had said to him earlier in the movie. And yeah, it's just so matter of fact, and that's just it. I love how it's your two friends are going to prison for 10 years, and you're a bad dude.
to this day, the other thing that is actually maybe even more than that is the funniest part of the movie to me is his neighbor,
Lawrence,
when he talks to him through the wall. And to this day, Chris and I will be doing something, playing a video game. We'll be on the chat. He'll ask me to do something, come with me over here, or do whatever. I'm like, I don't want you fucking up my life too. It's one of those lines that, for whatever reason, it stuck with me, and the two of us will be hysterical laughing over it for long periods of time.
So that guy, for the longest time, was not in anything real. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, he's got a weird career resurgence. He was on Veep for a couple of years. Really funny, ridiculous role. And then he was on something else, and he also has become a semi-recurrent character on BoJack Horseman. But yeah, no, he's just like a weird dude, but he's funny.
He's funny. He was on the Drew Carey show, I think.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Like a staple of that show. I had never really watched it, but I've seen like an episode or two, and he was always there.
Staple, nice.
So yeah, that's fun. Yeah. Anyway, we'll do an episode on that one at some point.
I'm always down for it. I love that movie.
Excellent. In one of the slow seasons, which we're not going to have a lot of this year, so
yeah,
buckle up. Awesome. All right.
I will
give
hit
us
you
your
with
last.
the smaller of my two nuggets.
Okay.
Did you hear that, at least from a working standpoint, we have a title for the new Terminator movie?
No, I did not hear that.
Terminator 6 is currently going by Terminator Dark Fate. This is from Den of Geek.
Okay.
I am going to scroll down slightly to the more interesting part of this article. We're calling it Terminator Dark Fate. Cameron confirmed. That's our working title right now. He had said that...
I'm sorry, who confirmed?
James Cameron.
Is
the
he
greatest pioneer.
Is he doing it?
Originally, he was attached to direct, but it sounds like he's going to be more like the George Lucas role from episodes 5 and 6.
Got it.
Where he's like executive producer plus.
Okay.
It's going to be directed by Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, the first one. This sequel will pretend movies 3, 4, and 5 never happened.
Okay. Wait. For clarity, pretend they never happened, or rewrite the history through their usual timeline antics?
No, it's going to wipe clean. It's a direct sequel to 2.
Oh, okay, cool. So they should just call it 3.
Well, there's already a movie called that.
That's okay.
But this is just the working title, Dark Fate. It may stick, it may not. Tim Miller's helming Dark Fate, and Cameron revealed that he's not been interfering much with the film as it's progressed. Tim's a very willful and opinionated director, and he's got his own ideas for the film. I'm kind of like the Pips. He's Gladys. I had to read that sentence because it's incredible.
It would have been better if he said pimps, because until longer than I care to admit, that's what I thought it was. So.
I'm pretty sure I did at some point in their life.
But if he still didn't know, that would be amazing.
And then the final blurb here. I said I can't be involved in this film at all if Arnold Schwarzenegger is not in it, before also confirming that he wanted Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor too.
Ooh,
Fans are
okay.
going to want to see her again, and they're going to want to see the real Sarah Connor and what time and dealing with these tragic futures has done to her. It's a very female-centric film, which I'm glad Tim embraced those themes. I know that Mackenzie, I can't remember her name, is I think also supposed to be one of the leads. She's from *Halt and Catch Fire*. She played Cameron on that. Okay. And then I know there's been a few other people who've been cast as well, but I can't recall who.
Nice. Is there a timeline for that?
I think it's supposed to be 2020, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, Terminator, I will see it, regardless.
Well, I know you love the first two, especially the second, right?
Yeah, the second, Terminator 2 is the first R-rated movie that I've ever seen.
Nice.
And it was...
Mackenzie Davis, that's her name. Oh, no, sorry. Its current release date is the 1st of November, 2019.
Damn. Okay.
I thought it was this year.
This year, man. This year is
so we have
bonkers.
We have Mackenzie Davis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Brett Azar. He's going to be playing the T-800. Natalia Reyes, Gabriel Luna, and then a bunch of people that I'm not familiar with.
Is the kid, I guess, the guy that played John Connor, he's not returning?
Oh, I have no idea. But I can tell you that just looking through this high-level bit of the cast list right now, there is no one credited as John Connor as of now.
That's
but
interesting.
Several of these people listed here don't have any name attached to them.
So any of them could be
that someone else has been cast of that. They just haven't released that information yet.
Sure. What about the show? Does the show have any?
I have no idea.
Time?
The Sarah Connor Chronicles? Isn't that what it was?
It wasn't the Sarah Chronicles?
Wasn't it the Sarah Connor Chronicles?
I don't know.
The Sarah Chronicles.
I think we could both agree it shouldn't have happened.
I mean, I never watched
Did
it.
you say conicals?
I said the Sarah Connor holes.
Conicals? Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, I think I watched maybe 2 episodes. Actually, wasn't Sarah Connor played by Lena Headey?
Was she?
I don't know. I could be making that up entirely. I don't know why. I don't know why I'd be making that up. Like where that would have come from.
Well, I would look it up and tell you, except I butchered the name Sarah in the search bar so horrendously that I cannot actually describe to you.
What did you spell?
I typed SSAAH.
It is Lena Headey.
Yes.
Huh. Crazy.
Also, this show came out a lot longer than I thought. A lot longer ago than I thought. It was 10 years ago. 11 years ago.
That's like one of those things, like, I think I watched an episode. I don't know how I remember she was in it.
Now that I'm seeing the promotional picture, yes, I do recall this and recall her specifically being in it. Although this was before I was super well acquainted with her. Although I didn't realize remember that horrendous. Well, I guess the whole movie wasn't horrendous, but we recently discussed, and I unlocked some memories in you. The Jungle Book movie.
Yeah.
With the quicksand.
Out of here with that shit. Stop it. Just when I think it's gone.
That movie, I know, it pulls you right back in, just like quicksand.
Is that why we're so close? Shared trauma?
Yes, I suppose so.
Right.
I think that show was actually kind of had a cult following. I know it wasn't reviewed that well, I don't think, and it was definitely did not draw huge ratings, but I think it had a passionate fan base.
Yeah. I feel like I watched a couple episodes and I wasn't like, well, but as a huge Terminator fan, I also was not drawn in, so I guess it couldn't have been that great. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I thought that you might be interested in hearing about that.
I am interested. I very much would like to see that movie.
Yeah, I'd be down for it too. And then let's go to my final nugget, which is a little bit of a meteor nugget. We're going to kill a narrative.
Excellent. We haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, I think we've only actually done one formal killing of a narrative. But
I think we did
it's
two.
always there to be done. Oh, did we do two? Okay.
We did too.
Well, I think the first one we did was in a similar vein to the one that we'll be doing now.
Okay.
And we will be killing some narratives around Star Wars.
Ooh.
I'm going to read you a headline to an article that came out a few days ago. Updated, Rian Johnson leaves planned Star Wars trilogy. I will now read you the update. Rian Johnson himself debunked the rumor on social media, confirming he's still working on the trilogy. If you're confused by that, you won't be alone. I think maybe if we are going to update an article with the debunking of the headline of the article, we should probably scrap the article and the headline. Let me give you to the actual one following up. Star Wars. Rian Johnson confirms he's still working on a new trilogy. This is written by the same exact... this is the same person wrote this article who wrote the first one. It was one day later on the same website. This is on comicbook.com. In what's become one of the fastest debunkings of a major rumor, there's no problems behind the scenes of the new Star Wars franchise. After word hit that Rian Johnson had walked away from the planned trilogy of Star Wars films, the director himself took to social media to confirm he is indeed still working in the galaxy far, far away. There's a couple of embedded tweets here where someone said Screen Rant doesn't like Rian and the rumor comes from Super Bro movies. Until Rian says it, I won't believe it. Responding to that tweet was Rian Johnson himself saying, I refuse to believe you didn't just make up Super Bro movies. Someone else replied to that and says, I hope this isn't true. And he responded back again, no, it isn't true. I'm still working on the trilogy. With all due respect to the movie bros, who I'm sure are lovely, kind bros with good fraternal intentions. The rumor hit when a site called Super Bro Movies reported that Johnson was walking away from the franchise. Other sites insinuated that it was because of fan backlash to Star Wars The Last Jedi. But Johnson himself made it clear that he was indeed still working on this spin-off franchise, which will involve brand new characters and not be involved with the ongoing plot of the Skywalker saga. Producer Ram Bergman, who works on all of Johnson's films and will help on the new saga, teased what fans should expect during an interview from The Grapevine. It's a completely new trilogy that writer-director Rian Johnson, my partner, is going to create. It's all new characters. Everything is new. And that comes alongside this news came out very close in time to other news reaffirming also that D.B. Weiss and David Benioff of Game of Thrones fame will also be doing their trilogy of movies still. And that work is, I think, quietly starting to ramp up as they will be jumping fully into that as soon as all the press and promotion for Game of Thrones is done.
Wow. Man, it's exciting.
So we will start to get news on that in the next few months. The Johnson trilogy will start getting news a little later because he's not actually going to do any work with that until he's released a movie that's coming out later this year. I forget what it's called, but he's like, I think maybe done already filming it.
Okay. Cool.
I want to say it was called Knives or something like that. It was something involving knife in the title, I think.
Got it. Not the character from Scott Pilgrim.
No, not Knives Chap.
Okay.
No, so anyway, the narrative that we're killing is that Star Wars and the piss babies who were crying about Last Jedi have canceled those other movies because we haven't heard much about them because they are still in very high-level planning with it. We're still getting 6 movies that are not saga-related, that aren't the Star Wars stories that we've gotten a couple of mixed quality.
Right, we're getting full trilogy treatment.
2 full trilogies existing in the canon.
Amazing.
Not existing directly in the Skywalker saga. And we have as of yet, do not know 100% when in the timeline these will exist, whether they be concurrent, future, or past.
The Game of Thrones guys, I want them to give me like an Old Republic story.
I wonder, are we gonna get Game of Thrones sensibilities in this? Is it hard R in a Star Wars? Because thus far they've only done one PG-13, I think, to my knowledge, and that was because Anakin killed the shit out of a bunch of little kids.
That's true.
Off screen, but still killed the shit out of them, and everyone knows it.
He did.
You can see him
get away with the PG on that.
You can see him holding a kid by the ponytail while he's slashing another one.
They were also like, well, if we're gonna kill his kids, you might as well set them on fire on screen. High ground. Is there?
That's not the high ground. That's not the Jedi way.
Oh my god. Cool. That's gonna be wild to get those trilogies. I'm excited. You think about the original trilogy, right? And watching those and how much there is in there, like how much good movie there is in 3 movies. It's gotten a little. I mean, as much as I love it, it is gratuitous that there's 9, the 9th of this what was originally 3 or originally 1, whatever stories coming out and finalizing it for now. But to start fresh in a different area in a galaxy far away, maybe. Who knows? It's far, further. Who knows where it's exactly where it's gonna take place? But that's really exciting to me because all fresh, no tie-ins. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how these people complain about it. I really am.
Well, sure. The only thing I'm curious about is, for one, I really hope that they did learn something of a lesson and they only release one of these a year. One a year is perfect, and just do it in December. Keep a window open in December.
You do that enough, and you create a national holiday.
Or change it and release it on May 4th every year. I don't care. Whatever, because they do Star Wars Day, right? May the 4th.
Yeah.
But you know what? Just release one a year. The thing I'm curious about is, would they release them leapfrogging each other, one Johnson, one Benioff Weiss, one Johnson, one Benioff Weiss? Or do you do 3 of one and 3 of the other?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think one on, one off is probably the best way to quality control it.
Well, sure, it gives them enough time to make sure they're doing it because you get 2 years per movie. I'm curious. Because the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if they would shoot some of this or all of them back to back like they've done with other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then that would mean that one of them would be sitting around for 3 years before. Well, one of them would be sitting around for 6 years before it debuted. So maybe it would make sense to release them alternatingly. But then I also wonder if you get kind of, I mean, it's not actually confusing, but if it's, if you quote unquote get confused by one being one being the other, and then coming back to the one, coming back to the other. I don't know.
Yeah, could be interesting. I don't care. I will love whatever they do. I'm sure.
Well,
and I'm
that's the
excited
thing
to see how it goes down.
I'd be afraid of is that they would release them 2 a year, 6
2
months
a year
apart.
is the wrong way to do it. Yes.
Yes, I agree
with that. That's do not want that. Take your time. Take your time. I'll wait. Man, I'm getting the anticipation, man. It's building.
Oh yeah. And on the note of episode 9, there's been a lot of stuff rumored, and everyone seems to really stuck on one particular rumored title for episode 9, Balance of the Force.
Mm.
But a couple days ago, someone from the production, Pablo Hidalgo, I think it was, someone came out and said publicly, there's literally only one person in the world who knows the title, and it's J.J. Abrams. He has not told anyone yet what the title is. So if that's to be believed, then the movie will not be called Balance of the Force, most likely. And I think we're going to get news on the title and a trailer soon. I know we discussed it a couple weeks ago. But with all of them talking about production wrapping, John Boyega said something about I'll see you all soon or something like that.
Mm.
So I imagine that means sometime in the next few weeks. I don't know exactly when. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up falsely, but I imagine we'll be getting something concrete soon.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. Little side note, I have like Flex PTO at work, so like unlimited PTO. You could take it as you need it, get your work done type thing.
So you've already booked the day off for
no, I haven't, but I also have, I think it's for legal reasons, 2 floating holidays. Like you have to have a certain number of holidays per year, and rather than pick and choose, they let you do them.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to use one of those for that day. Even though it doesn't matter for me at all what I choose it for, I'm going to make it a holiday.
It's your own personal little holiday?
Yes. Man, I'm so excited. Cool. Anything else before we get into things?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, with that, let us dive into our flick of the week, Roma. Oh, Al. Oh, Al. May I? This may be a paraphrasing of your text. I wrote it.
No, take the time. Go ahead and find the quote and read it. Full effect. I think everyone will be enjoyed by it. Yes, this is mostly me stalling while he scrolls to his phone. Yeah. I do think it'll be entertaining to have him read my quote rather than me read it. And I think it'll make for some fun little discussion here.
It's. I got this movie. Keep vamping. I haven't found it yet.
I assumed based on the way you did that meant you had found it. Because I didn't think it would take that much scrolling to find.
I got it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was pretty close. The quote, Alessandro Bielsa. It was 2 hours long, felt like 4, and took me 5 or 6 to finish it. Every word of that made me just go, yes.
So let me tell you, before we get started, how I watched this movie.
Okay.
I sat down to watch this movie. Mm-hmm. I watched about the first 30 minutes of it.
Mm-hmm. And just enough to finish cleaning the floor?
Turned it...
Got it. All right, go on.
And then I turned it off.
Uh-huh.
And I went and made myself a very strong cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned it on my phone. And I watched it for about 15 minutes. And then I turned it off again. Mm-hmm. And I did something else. And for, a little bit, 10 minutes or so. Then I turned it on for another 10 minutes or so. And then I turned it off. And I cried a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Fair.
And then I went and did something else for a couple of hours. And then I turned it on and started watching it in 5 to 10 minute bursts while doing other things. Because this movie gave me so much anxiety while watching it. I was watching for a few minutes. And then I would pause it to see how much I'd watch. And it was like 90 seconds and it felt like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, the movie's never going to end. I was getting anxiety. It was like, I think you watched Did you watch American Horror Story?
I watched. I don't know if I finished. I didn't like it. I think I watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes of one of the seasons, and I just didn't.
Okay, so there was one season where they go in pretty heavily. It was the Coven one with the witches. That was the only season I actually saw, and they go in depth, especially later in the show. People die and go to hell, and everyone's hell was their own personal tailored thing.
Okay,
That's going to be the most torturous to them, and I was concerned that I died and this was my hell. That I would just have to watch the movie forever. I thought that's what my life was just continuing to watch the movie, and that it was just never going to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the longest movie I've watched. I've watched movies that are literally 1 whole hour longer than this movie.
Yep. And
they felt like they were half the runtime of this movie.
May I give you my tagline?
I couldn't. What?
Just to tie into that, let me give you what my tagline for this movie was before you sent me that text. 3 words. An abysmal eternity. That's my review. Go on.
I'm serious. It got to the point where like I had to give myself something else to do in between these 5 and 10 minutes bursts just to reset my mind so I didn't kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that lightly because I think it's funny. I honestly was getting seriously stressed out watching this movie because I just wanted it to be over so badly and I couldn't get it to end.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I went downstairs and I was playing a video game for 10 minutes and then watching 10 minutes of the movie, playing the video game for 10 minutes, just to scrub it out of my brain.
Oh, God. I think you approached it the right way. For those of you who have been here with us for a while now, they know the plight of the Phantom Thread.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too because we discussed that, right? You and Kim
we did
talked to each other.
Yeah,
ultimately
we were sitting
decided
on the couch together. The movie ended, and we both turned to each other and said basically, like, what the hell was that? And gave it a minute, took a breather, some quiet time. Then I came back and I asked her, Roma or the Phantom Thread? We both sighed and at the same time said the Phantom Thread.
It's not even a competition. We did that episode not that long ago. I wouldn't say that I liked the Phantom Thread, but I liked aspects of it.
Sure, but you know how much I hated it.
I liked 0 aspects of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was intrigued by the Phantom Thread. They're basically the same length of movie, and I didn't have to stop watching the Phantom Thread. I was able to get through the whole thing. There was enough going on the whole time.
But, like, I just don't understand. Like, there's a very vocal praise of this movie, and it makes me think that people are afraid to say that it wasn't good. And I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand. And forget about, I mean, we'll put off to the side for now. Why is this in Best Picture, not Best Foreign Language Film? It's a foreign language film. There's like 6 words spoken in English in the movie. The whole movie is in subtitles, which is fine. That's great. I don't, care one way or the other, because there was all subtitles, so I was able to understand what was going on. Unlike A Quiet Place. Why is this in the Best Picture category? There's a category for this movie.
Huh. That's a good question. I don't know.
We wouldn't be having this conversation because we never take that category seriously. We don't typically watch any of those movies. Not because we wouldn't enjoy them per se, but a lot of times there's not a way to get access to them. This was on Netflix, so it was very easily wide released for anyone to watch. I said that I didn't like the Phantom Thread classically, like by the classic definition of liking something. Mm-hmm. But I did say when we did that episode, I didn't regret my time watching it.
Right.
I felt like I gained something from having watched it because I did find it interesting. I did not gain anything. I regret my time watching this movie.
I have to add, so I was excited to do this episode with you because whether or not you like or hate something, and more specifically here, I'm looking for the times that you hate something, you're usually able to point out something to me that you could say, like, I could see why a person would like X or Y, and I'm dying for that from you here, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to get it.
I will tell you the one thing you can take away why people might have liked this movie.
What's that?
If there's any part of the population that feels slightly underserved by not having had Game of Thrones this past year, you got your quota of floppy dick.
Okay. That's fair. That's where the Naked Ninja comes in. You know what's funny?
Which I did legitimately laugh out loud. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Right. I was gonna be like, oh, like we're in post spoilers, but there's really nothing to spoil here because nothing happens in this movie. But that's not
We're
true.
doing you a
Things
favor
happen.
by spoiling this movie.
Naked martial arts for
like,
no
a long
real
time.
for no real reason. Then again, nothing really mattered. Here's the thing: that scene is, I think, part of the reason. Turned it up to 11 for me on how much this is bullshit. Because I feel like we get a scene early on of just all of this dog shit in the driveway. Literal dog shit.
Who knew this movie was so meta?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Literal dog shit in the driveway, and I didn't realize at the time that it was a metaphor for how the director was just taking a shit on me the whole time.
Which is incredible, considering this is very obviously a special movie because Alfonso Cuarón, born in Mexico City, grew up in Mexico. I'm sure that this was an incredible passion project for him to work on.
Sure. That does not a Best Picture make.
No, the fact that it's depressing as shit and it's in black and white is what makes it Best Picture.
Yeah, I didn't know that the 15 minutes of watching the floor was foreshadowing for the entire experience.
The thing is, I thought that the whole point was that the Academy was trying to become more forward-thinking, slowly, admittedly, and this is everything that encapsulates all the issues that the casual fan has with the Academy.
Oh, that's interesting, because I thought the Academy is so far up this guy's ass that I don't know what he has on them. Because, alright.
That's not completely fair. I don't dislike Alfonso Cuarón in general. I actually like his Harry Potter movie a lot.
Okay.
I enjoyed Gravity, even if I didn't think it should have won Best Picture.
That's what I'm getting at, though. Like, I'm not disputing any of that. Like, I'm not saying that he's a bad director. This is not a good movie.
No, and I mean, like, there was some quality to the technical aspects of the making of this movie.
Okay.
Though even some of that I thought was a little bit over the top. Some of the just random pivoting of the camera for no apparent reason to give, like, scope of landscape. A lot of that stuff, the dog shit scrubbing scene, just like long periods of someone sitting down and doing nothing, but like not even like zooming in on them being like brooding and contemplative. Honestly, some of the camera work actually ended up being sophomoric. I felt like, you know what some of it reminded me of is early Kevin Smith. You know what I mean? And he was kind of, right, the everyman, like, making a movie, right? He's not the super technically sound director, at least at the earlier in his career. Because the scene when they're on the beach, when she walks the kid back and then she walks back to it, you know what it reminded me of? Is the way the camera follows Ben Affleck during Chasing Amy, when they have the fight in the rain.
Yeah. That's
I felt like it mimicked that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Even though thematically they're pretty different things. But like some of the shots that did were actually like really like nice, like visually pleasing. And even though I think the whole black and white thing tends to be like uber pretentious, I thought it kind of worked for this. I just don't get it. And like, she was nominated for Best Actress, and she was fine, but she was just fine. She's mostly mumbling the whole movie. I don't think that makes a tremendous performance. There wasn't a lot of physicality to her. She's shrinking most of the movie away from all these things in her life. There wasn't even like any big scene where she's having it out with someone. Wasn't one of her. The one scene maybe that was when she breaks to her employer that she's pregnant, that like I felt like she really like nailed. Like, other than that, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, considering this is literally the first thing she's ever been in, like, she did a hell of a job for being a complete amateur in that regard.
Right.
I just don't get the hype there. No one else had any sort of standout performance.
No.
The writing wasn't good. There was there wasn't really any originality to the story. If this was like based on a true story, then like there wouldn't be cause for originality, right?
Sure.
But I called a lot of the things that were going to happen before they happened in this movie. There was very little surprise to me. The thing that surprised me most was that no one drowned in the scene at the beach. Because that just seemed the way it was going, right?
Yeah.
It was shit stuff, like on top of more shit in this poor girl's life.
Yeah,
I assumed one of the kids or her was actually if you'd asked me to power rank what's most likely, I assumed she was going to drown in that scene, saving the two kids. The fact that all three of them survived ended up being kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Not that I was out for blood.
Right.
It seemed like you had the balls to do how many shitty things to these people during the course of this. Why would you back off now?
Yeah. This movie frustrated me tremendously. But I try to take a step back and look at different things that happen in the movie and maybe try to understand what they were going for. And there's a couple of themes that are there. We get we have these things that were interesting to me were explore, if you wanted to explore the class system and explore it deeper.
Some of that was interesting.
It could have been interesting if you went a little bit further with it, or focused on it rather than. I don't know. I'm joking about the cleaning the floor for 15 minutes, but they spent so much time on really trying very hard to do something artistic that was not worth my time. That they maybe should have spent a little bit more time developing story or narrating it to some degree.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge issue I had. There's zero context provided for any of this movie. Which, there's a way to do that with this sort of movie where you're an outsider dropped into a situation that you don't understand. And you're supposed to have a fish out of water feeling. Mm-hmm. But then, eventually, they supply you with the water for you to breathe.
Right.
They didn't do that, ever. At some point, they just kind of casually dropped it was 1970. Great. Obviously, it's in Mexico. Probably, obviously. But you're not getting that based on anything. There's just no context.
Right.
With this sort of thing, you either usually get some sort of text block early on in the movie, or what happens is, as it unfurls, you get a lot of conversation that you can glean from the side. Yeah. There is none. I don't know anything about 1970s Mexico. I don't know anything about the political strife.
Right, and that's another thing.
Not in an effective way. You hinted way too vaguely. If you got a little more specific with some of it, that could have made for something really interesting.
Well, that actually is probably one of the things that bothered me the most. Is I am not familiar with these riots and what was going on politically at the time, and it seems like it was pretty serious. And I would like to go back and I will do my own research and try to understand what was going on and get some bearings there. But that could have been an interesting story to tell.
Well, I think the argument probably would have been that it was examining some universal themes of how this has happened many times in history in many places.
Sure.
And it's a cyclical part of human nature. The problem is it went so broad in its universality that it lost all meaning.
Yeah. I don't know. It was frustrating. They showed how, regardless of class, that people are still people and can have similar shared enjoyment and trauma. These two women were abandoned, right? And they are on opposite ends of the spectrum class-wise. And they can at least relate to each other on that level to some degree. And there's a little bit of an extra bond forged there because of that. And that could have been a story in itself that you told that went somewhere or had some revelation, or at least... The thing is that there's no real story here. It is just a snapshot.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is this movie is totally schizophrenic because it cycles through a bunch of different types of movies during the run of it. It doesn't stick with any of them. Is it a day in the life movie?
Right.
Is it a movie about motherhood?
Who knows?
Is it a movie about political and class unrest? Is it a movie about Mexico and its history? Is it a movie about, I have no idea. I have no idea what it's about, because it's about all those things and also none of those things.
Right. It's every little path that they touch on. It's it could be interesting to explore that, and then, okay, we're not going to do that. All right, we're moving on to the next thing. The
end of the movie goes down the It's a Wonderful Life thing.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. This whole, we're banding together in the worst of times, and we just have to love each other so much, and it'll be an adventure, and this and that. And that's great and all, but, when did we get to that being what the movie was about?
Yeah. I just found I was at a complete loss when it ended. Of my time and and energy.
There was so many things going on in this movie, and yet also somehow there wasn't nearly enough going on.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a read through and see if someone counted the amount of dialogue in this movie, because somehow this movie about a bunch of people who like live together and do a bunch of things together, it may have had less lines spoken than The Revenant.
Yeah, it's probably like 12 pages of dialogue.
I don't understand.
I don't either. It was so interesting. Like, just another thing. Like, again, they need to explore. Like, if you are doing a day in the life type of thing, and you're doing it for an audience, as far as I understand, and if it's just for him, maybe that makes sense. And if it's for folks that live there in that time, maybe it means something more to you, and that's fine.
If it was just for him, it explains why Netflix picked it up and it wasn't backed by a major studio, because he has the clout to get it made anywhere.
True.
But then why is it nominated for Best Picture?
But I don't know. But for something like that, I know, like, I love Kevin Smith has a philosophy of he makes the movie that he wants to see,
which is fine.
Right. And I am okay with that. But at the same time, he tells a story. He does a thing. Like, you could see how these jokes would be funny, maybe to you and your friends, and maybe not to everybody. But like, at least you could recognize that, whether or not you agree, disagree, like or dislike the thing. This is not for, like, you know what? The more that I think about this, the more it actually feels like I didn't even think about it beforehand until you mentioned it at the top of this, was the foreign language film thing. It being nominated for that, I think would have made this hurt a little bit less, specifically because when I see a foreign language film, I expect to not have full context, and I expect that there are going to be things that I don't grasp, and I can accept that.
But the thing is, good screenwriting gives you enough to latch on to something.
Right.
This never does that.
Why is this a Best Picture nominee?
I don't know. That's the thing, is I don't begrudge the movie existing, and I don't begrudge it being his passion project and him doing it.
Right.
I don't begrudge people liking the movie. If people want to like it, fine. What I don't understand is how it's become this, like, critically acclaimed darling.
Yes.
That's, like, probably the front runner to win Best Picture. I
right.
just don't understand.
And I've been
it
forced to watch it.
In a lot of the movies recently, like, even if I didn't agree with it winning, I at least got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
No, not at all. How about, okay, what about that? Just as a really, this is part of the reason why I said earlier, like, you know, like the director shitting on us. When they go see the movie, and it's Gravity, that really bothered me. That was like when you're in college, and the professor makes you buy his textbook, and he's not a good professor.
Oregon author.
I learned nothing in that networking class. I'm still bitter about it. When that scene happens, and you see the astronaut floating, and I'm just like, fucking really? I was so mad as it happened. Oh, I cannot stress enough. Do not watch this movie. Or do, and, you know, maybe you'll get it and you can write us and explain why.
It was tantamount to emotional torture.
Yeah.
Just the viewing experience.
Yep. The naked martial arts was so jarring to me simply because of all of the things that were irrelevant that happened, that was at the was way at the top of the list.
Well, the problem I have with it is that it makes the writing of that character and his dynamic with Cleo, it makes them completely at odds. Because that's the sort of thing you do for someone you care about really deeply, because you're exposing this piece of yourself literally and metaphorically,
Yeah. Nice.
to someone like you could see how important it was to share that thing, whether it would be clothed or not, and then how callously he runs away from everything later on. I'm not saying that you can't have him run away from it.
No.
The way that it flips like this, and like she's like dirt on his shoe when he shared that with her, those things don't add up.
No.
So it's just bad writing at that point.
I completely agree. Ugh. Absolutely frustrating. I can't believe that I watched that whole thing. But then it became one of those things where, 30 minutes in, you know, like, I don't know, well, not 30 minutes in, 10 minutes in, when she's done cleaning the floor, you know that the movie's not going to be good.
I didn't...
and then I sat there for the next 3 days watching it.
I did have some reservations.
Oh my god, it was an absolute train wreck. It really is. I wouldn't be so offended if it weren't up for Best Picture.
No, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I also wouldn't have finished it.
No, I definitely wouldn't have.
Which is, it's just unreal. I don't get. I don't understand the dynamics of the family. I assume that I assume the grandmother that lived with them was the wife's mother. I couldn't tell you for sure, just would assume that from the premise.
Well, also the fact that they were both white, and also that she stayed in the house after she knew that the husband left.
Was the husband not white?
No.
That did not translate well through black and white film. Yeah, well, that's what my assumption was, because she stayed there after the fact.
Wouldn't it have been a million times weirder if she was his mother?
You know what? Yeah, oh yeah, it would have been, but at this point, all bets are off. There's a point where he comes back for his stuff and takes his stuff out of the house. I don't understand. So this guy, I think he was a professor of some kind?
Yes.
A research scientist, maybe? A research doctor?
Sure.
And he took the bookshelves...
And some of the books.
And left the books?
Some of them, yes.
I don't understand. Don't understand any of it. I don't understand the scene where he's driving the car into the driveway and then has to fix it. I don't... Is that scene only there to set up the scene later where she crashes the car into all of the walls?
I would imagine so.
I guess. I don't understand the shit on the floor. I don't understand...
It was like a super important thing that kept coming up cyclically in the story. Like, first of all, when they show the washing scene in the very opening of the movie, you don't realize she's washing shit at that moment.
Right.
They keep coming back to the dog. I assumed the dog was going to get killed because they kept making a big deal about it not getting out.
Yeah.
And then it gets out, and then it comes right back, and nothing happens bad to the dog ever. Which, fine, I'm on board with. I don't
kill the dog. He didn't do anything wrong.
But I just... you don't make that sort of emphasis like that over and over for no narrative reason. No. Please clean up the shit. I keep telling you to clean up the shit. He stepped in the shit. I'm pissed at you because my husband, who's leaving me forever, stepped in shit. Clean it up. And then we end the movie with it. Did we end with the movie with washing again, or the water running out again, or something like that?
I don't remember.
Then nothing was gained. Nothing happened.
And we got the beach water lapping. I don't know if that was supposed to be relevant. It's another scene that doesn't make it. It doesn't matter.
All of them?
Yeah. That was what I was going to say.
That would have been great.
No, it wasn't. What I was going to say was she crashes the car. I told you she crashes the car into all the walls. Slowly. She slowly drives the car into the walls.
Well, she was drunk.
Right. Well, yeah. But then when she's not drunk, she slowly squeezes the car between two trucks. Like,
oh my god.
What was even happening? Like, I don't understand what I was watching.
There was some line early in the movie about her being a bad driver.
Okay. It just, you know what it felt like? It felt like watching somebody else's weird bad dream.
It's funny. I actually have a note here. It's the only one that I didn't check off. I said that this movie was so depressing, and it was executed like a slow motion fever dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Like one of those ones where you go back to sleep to try to finish it.
I would never go back to sleep.
Or you fall back to sleep and you're unfortunately trying. It's unfortunately.
This is the movie that gets you. This is the movie that gets you to stay awake from 4 a.m. on because you don't want to go back to have that dream.
Or if you're drifting off, you're like, God, I hope Freddy's real. Just end it while we're in this. That's. Oh
yeah, because it's just like all flowing and like so like barely loosely tangentially connected from one scene to the next. I just.
One of the brothers throws something at the other brother and I guess could have hurt him.
Well, since when did throwing, like, was it a baseball? Was it a rock? It went through a fucking window. Apparently it was a lethal weapon. We were really afraid it was going to kill the brother. Like,
right.
I don't know.
I don't understand. How about, remember when the one kid's listening to the mom talk on the phone and she comes out of the room, she just slaps him in the face? I was like,
Slap the shit out of him.
I was like, woo!
The problem is, I meant to write it down after it happened. There was a line at some point in the movie that I actually laughed out loud. Like, it was like a funny line. And it was exactly like, that was one of the longer, like, strips of the movie that I watched because that physical reset allowed me to keep watching it.
Mm.
I don't remember what it was, but like that was the only redeeming part of the entire movie, and I can't remember what it was.
Man, I'm just feeling worse and worse as we talk about it.
No, this has been cathartic for me.
We needed it.
I didn't have anyone else to talk to about the movie with, so.
That's true. If you've gotten this far, don't get yourself into this position. Just skip right over it. If you have gotten yourself into this, I'm absolutely serious. Flix and a 6 at spintune.com. Write us an email and just explain yourself.
Explain yourself or explain to us what we're missing.
I'd be happy to read it. I'd be happy to exhibit it on the show because
we can have our favorite segment, reading. I'll read the email.
Sounds great. Let's do it. Benny, you know what? This is one of those times where I hope I don't get an email because I don't want somebody else to have gone through this.
Just get an email that reads.
I'm going to get an email from Kim.
You guys nailed it.
Kim, yeah, it's going to be Kim. She's going to be like, you know what? I didn't get to say my piece. Ugh. God. Do you have anything else you want to say about this?
Absolutely not.
Heaving pile of trash?
Nope.
Wonderful. That's it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We sure as hell didn't. Tune in later this week for our pre-Oscar show and take notes just to see how wrong we are in our predictions. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo. Thanks for coming out.